I had to make that choice to face the past hurts and pains, make that choice to get on the operating table. So often we want to avoid additional pain. We want to avoid the Lord cutting away at us. But He's got to be able to cut away some of those things that need to be cut away, as well as then speak His truth in as far as His love and His care.
So we got married May 29th, 1993. I had Audra at the time. Audra was 4. And I think we both had some high expectations of each other. Maybe unrealistic expectations would be a fair way to put it.
Yes. I wanted to be a knight in shining armor.
Yep. And I fully expected him to love me and fulfill that need I had in my heart to be loved and to be a dad to Audra. Which both sounds fine, not really unrealistic, but yet when I was trying to get all my needs met, all my heart filled with that love from Kevin alone, that's too much for one person. That's unrealistic expectations. And I think I had quite a few of those unrealistic expectations, which put a lot of pressure on Kevin.
I had my own holes, wanting to be loved, trying to deal with, I had my own past hurts and abuse and whatnot, to try to work through or impacted, how well I related. But I had expectations of, you loving me a lot. And that can set things up for those expectations. That was one of the key things, I think, in the whole process. Unmet expectations bring anger. So that didn't set that up too well for us. Mm-hmm. But I think from there then, we got married, had Audra. I was in college, working 1 or 2 jobs at the time. I think we found out things got pretty rough pretty quick for us. And that takes its toll, I think, over time.
Yep. We were married 13 years, and January 1st of 2007, we both woke up in different beds and didn't know what in the world was going to happen in the future.
That was a rough time.
It was. So we spent, prior to that, I should say, we spent lots of time, many hours, counseling, meeting with other couples that had successful marriages, going to marriage retreats, did I say we went to counseling? Yeah, we went to counseling.
There's a bit of that.
And, so we put a lot of effort into trying to heal or fix our marriage, and but it just seemed like it wasn't helping. It wasn't working, and so we found ourselves waking up in separate beds in 2007 and just felt desperate and alone and just kind of abandoned, really.
Kind of right before that breaking point, if you will, we were in the midst of building a house, so that took its toll, I think, too. I think for you, it just, my anger or my struggle inside, I think I was projecting a lot of my own struggle to accept myself and some of those types of things. It made it hard for our kids, made it hard for you. I wasn't the nicest person to be around.
Not really.
Anger would get the better of me at times. So, yeah, it's not much fun patching drywall or some of that kind of stuff. It's not the answer. And dealing with the real hard issues is what we had to get to. We tried, I think you mentioned that we went to counseling.
Yeah, I did mention
Okay.
that.
And I'm not dissing counseling.
No.
There was a lot of some of the counseling that we went through that was very beneficial, because I think so often you can get to the point to where this is just how I am. If you don't like it, tough. I don't think that's a solution. But I think the Holy Spirit really directed you at one point. It's just, you can maybe talk about that a little bit, where you just felt like now's the time.
Yeah, there was an event that had happened, and I just felt like the Lord said, go now. And so, anyways, we found ourselves separated, and
Yeah.
we were separated for a whole year. Did counseling in that year, separate and together, and
I
think that's, and just that year separated, I think, was the space we needed to be able to kind of, the Lord be able to do some work on our own hearts, because he did.
Yeah.
Now when we got back together, it wasn't necessarily everything's all better. Kevin was still Kevin, I was still Tammy. We had our own personalities, and so there was still some work to be done.
Yeah. I think that time of separation, or Lord leading you to move out, was a real wake-up call for me. It was hard. That was painful to have your wife and kids move out of the house. That was hard to go through. I remember days where just the pain and the grief or the struggle about makes you black out even when you're driving. I remember going off the road one time. Just dealing with that whole process is really hard, and there's a lot of times in that pain we can either choose to turn to other things, or we can choose to turn to the Lord. And I think that's one of the things for me that I feel the Lord's really protected and cared for us in our struggles, in our pain. Neither one of us went looking for somebody else. We really sought the Lord and what's he trying to do in us. I think one of the key things for me is really getting to that point to face our own issues, to be willing to look deep inside at, okay, Lord, what are those things that are contributing to me not being a nice person to be around, or me not being able to handle situations the way I need to, or what are those lies that I believe about myself or about other people, and understanding that, you talked about it early on as far as those expectations that we have, and God being the only one that can fulfill those. I think for me, the key thing was I had to make that choice to face the past hurts and pains, make that choice to get on the operating table. So often we want to avoid additional pain. We want to avoid the Lord cutting away at us. But he's got to be able to cut away some of those things that need to be cut away, as well as then speak his truth in as far as his love and his care. And he's been so gracious to me through my life and protected me from a lot of things. To be as old as I am and not have to have faced or not had the struggles that a lot of men have, I feel very fortunate, especially going through the struggles that we had. It's only by his mercy.
One of the things that I had to remember, or the Lord taught me through all of this, I think, was that Kevin's not my enemy. He might have looked at like my enemy at the time, but the devil has a way of masking himself. Our spouses aren't the enemy. The devil's out there to just devour families.
Yeah.
And he starts with the head in the marriage, and he will keep going if you let him.
Yeah.
And it's a battle. It's nothing. And once I could stop looking at Kevin like he's the enemy, then I could look to the Lord, and he could fill those needs that I have or had, have still, like he could fill that need to be loved, and I didn't have to look to Kevin to fill it. Yes, I want to be loved by Kevin, and he does fill it in a sense, but he's not. It's impossible for him to fill that need that's in our hearts. It's only Christ that can do that.
And I think you touch on a really important thing, because until we get to the point to where we truly are able to grab a hold of the Lord and his love that he has for us, I can't properly love my wife or my children the way I need to. because we don't have, until we really embrace and grab a hold of with both hands the love that Christ has for us, that makes it really hard to then truly love other people the way we need to, because we've got nothing in the tank to give then.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's a key part of it. One of the things I think that was really beneficial was just the way in which you unconditionally loved me, the way you believed in me, even at times when I felt like I didn't, or maybe nobody else really did, but you did. And that was hard, because I think there's a lot of times where if I was in anybody else's shoes, I'd have been really frustrated with me. And it would have been really hard to hang in there. But I think there's a richness that's come through that journey. A willingness to trust in the Lord in His process. So often we have an idea of how we want things to go. I didn't want to be separated for a year. That took some patience and some pursuing the Lord of, how do I care for you? How do I care for my children? How do I still provide for you in the midst of that being separated and just having a new house that we had moved into and built? That was a humbling, hard time. But I think the Lord used that to get my attention. He used that to help us to narrow in and focus on the things that He wanted to do in our hearts. Learning, one of the key things that I learned eventually, maybe not right away, what does it look like to lay my life down for my wife? One of the aspects of that is so often we can look and be real selfish as people. I grew up a youngest child, so I come by selfishness honestly. But how do I trust my heart to the Lord and not looking for you to fulfill whatever I'm wanting to be fulfilled? But how do I put my heart in the Lord's hand and then ask Him, Lord, how can I then care for Tammy? So for me, that's laying my life down at the Lord's feet, trusting Him with it. And okay, Lord, yeah, I'm maybe frustrated with Tammy. I'm maybe feeling like she's ignoring me, whatever, but what is it that she's needing? How can I set that aside and really focus on how do I be a loving husband? How do I be a servant of the Lord to my wife?
I think one of the things that I have needed to learn and continue to learn is I can't fix Kevin.
Take a while.
Sometimes there's things that maybe he says or does or something that either maybe it just irritates me or maybe it really did hurt my feelings. And I could lash out at him, and maybe have every right to. But that's not my job. So I'm trying to learn to just be patient and know that the Lord is working on his heart too, just as well as mine, because I'm not perfect either.
Yeah. I think so often we can look at what needs to be fixed in the other person, and we totally miss our responsibility for our emotions, for our choices, for our words. You talked about that a lot. We can really wound and hurt if we're not careful. But I think we have to take our responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah,
That's a big key.
Yeah.
Taking the time to invest in each other relationally, I think is important. There's times where I think we focused more on the stuff the kids had going, and that was easier for us to do than working on each other the way we really needed to. And then they move out, and it's like, who are you? That wasn't too bad. We made it through that transition pretty good.
Well, when we got back together then after a year, it wasn't like a lot changed, but it did. I think we were both ready to try to deal with things differently when things did come up, because they did. They came up. Like I said before, Kevin was still Kevin. I was still Tammy. So our personalities didn't change, but we did learn a lot in that year, and so we still had to work through, through the struggles.
Yeah.
Because they didn't just disappear. As much as I would have loved the Lord to just like make us brand new, all done, everything's healed and much better. He didn't. He was patient with us and worked with us through the process. And I think that's good for us because we learn best that way,
Yeah. Lord doesn't always take us out of or around some of the hard things. He takes us through them.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the key things for me was, working through those steps, trying to take those small steps in the right direction after we got back together, was me trying to be realistic with the expectations I had of myself of, okay, how do I, having that expectation of not getting on what Don calls, or I would call for myself too, getting on that crazy cycle. One of the things that I had to try to tell myself was, okay, I need to focus on how do I get off sooner and get off sooner and get off sooner, and take those small steps to where the enemy would like to just totally defeat me, that, I'm just never going to change. I'm never going to be able to get this right. I'm never going to be able to be the hubby that I need to be, or the father that I need to be. He just would want to take my legs out from under me anytime I mess up. But for me, it was focused on, okay, how do I get off sooner and get off sooner? And taking those small steps in that direction to where, okay, it's far and few between me getting on that cycle, if you will, of being able to make those right choices, of being able to process things correctly, look at things correctly in His truth and from His perspective, versus the lies that the enemy wants to throw at us. I think you mentioned earlier realizing it's work, or that it's a battle. I think that's key too, for us to realize that this is a battle. It's not not necessarily a honeymoon. I mean, that ended a couple weeks in, but understanding we're in the battle and that we need the Lord to be able to win that. That three-legged stool comes into mind. It takes both you and I and the Lord for our marriage to work. Because I'm a lot of work. I think as far as how our relationship looks now, kind of on the other side of that healing, as far as our relationship with each other and our relationship with our kids, I think one of the things that comes to mind with that for me was your gracious reminder to me at times when I would get discouraged of, it's not looking back, it's what is it today, what is it tomorrow that I can do, as far as all the regrets that I have or to live with of, maybe how I treated you, how I treated the kids or related to the kids or didn't relate to the kids enough. I can't stay focused on those past stuff. What is it today that I can do? What is it tomorrow? What are those right choices today and those right choices tomorrow that are can be a blessing to you, can be the blessing to our children? I think that's had to be my focus. There's still days when I struggle to feel like I don't know how to do this well. Some of it doesn't come natural for me or whatever. It's harder, but it's just
that relationship.
But just trying to stay at that and looking at, okay, what are those right things I can do today? What are those things moving forward? But what about for you?
Yeah. Well, on the other side of it, I feel like it's the other side, but we haven't arrived anywhere. We're still God's work in progress.
Yeah. It's a journey.
Definitely a journey. But I feel like on this side of it, we're more friends, kind of able to talk to each other about whatever, and we have lots of time together now that our kids are grown and out of the house. And so I think it's just becoming more like friends, which is a blessing. It's fun. We can, go and go out when we want to, and I think that relationship has grown for sure.
Yeah, and I think as far as the relationship with our children, I know some of the older daughters, as they're parenting and they're in that stage that we struggled through. It's interesting the conversations that we have now of, We didn't get everything right, but I know some of our...
Well, they have older children.
They have
is that
older
what you're
children.
saying?
Yeah, they have older children, so now they're identifying with our struggles that we had a little bit with parenting or whatever. But all of our children are just a huge blessing, and I'm proud of all of them. It's hard sometimes to think about ways in which I would have liked to have related with them better. The pain that was caused, but
we have tomorrow.
We got tomorrow. We got to focus ahead
Today.
on what we can do. Yeah.
Yeah. And we get to enjoy 7 grandbabies.
Yes, 7, 8 once we get to heaven. So, advice for a couple that is separated or is going through a divorce or through a separation. Some of the keys for that.
One of them, for me, would be don't give up.
Yeah. There's people in our lives that had faith for us when maybe we didn't, or had hope for us when we didn't.
Yeah, because we didn't have any hope. There was a lot of times we had no hope. This is just going to end.
A waste of time.
That's not Christ's plan for us, I don't believe. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work.
A lot of counseling.
Yeah.
And reading books.
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of deep digging in ourselves. I think avoiding buying into the lies of the enemy is huge.
Remember, your spouse isn't the enemy.
Yep. Seeking the Lord. Learning to grow. Be willing to do the hard work. You don't build something precious with no work.
I think serving your spouse when he doesn't deserve it, or when you think he doesn't deserve it, or she, just serving the other one. And I don't mean like getting down and washing their feet, although that
like
is a
it when
biblical.
I rub your feet, though.
Yeah, I do. But I mean serving as in make him coffee, tea if he likes it. Think of him or your spouse a little more than you think of yourself and how upset you are or hurt you are or justified as you are, because you could be justified in your hurtfulness or your pain. But I don't know, Christ didn't try and justify himself on the cross.
Yeah. You remind me a little bit of how one of the things for us in that was realizing our marriage, at least for me as well, our marriage is a reflection of who God is. As well as then, I think we knew during that process that we're not going to go through this struggle for the Lord to not use it. And so that's our hope, is that the things that we've gone through, the pain that we've experienced, how can we bring hope and encouragement to others that maybe are in that spot, or those that face that. I think some of the marriage mentoring we went through early on was, it's not if you're going to have problems in marriage, it's when. And so how do you prepare yourself for that? Part of that is a lot of the work, those that aren't married, do the work early. I can remember telling our son, there's 3 things to remember. Clean out the closet, get out of debt, or stay out of debt, and stay out of the bed until you're married. And that clean out the closet was some of the big things that we had to work through as far as a lot of the baggage that we brought into our marriage.
Things we thought we had hidden in the closet.
Yeah. God wants to deal with all that stuff because it impacts how we relate to each other, how we relate to others, how we reflect Him. Christ is the answer, and going to Him together too, as far as, I know it's precious those times when we can have prayer times, but even our own devotional lives and our own walk with the Lord is so critical. Out of that, then we can be a reflection of Christ to each other. You talked about how do we serve and care for each other in a Christ-like way. One of the other aspects on this side of it, it's been interesting. It's been neat to see those times when we've been able to be a support to others and see how sometimes what we go through isn't all about us. Sometimes it's about what God's wanting to do through us years down the road. So specifically for Tammy and I, we've had individuals that walked really closely with us and helped us. And years later, the Lord was able to use us to be an encouragement to them. So when we're going through a struggle, don't waste it. What's God wanting to do with it inside us? And what is He wanting to do? How's He building muscle in us for Him to use us later to be able to help minister, be His hands and feet to minister and encourage and lift up somebody else? I think that's important to realize too. We're here to serve and care for each other, but also other people. And the enemy wants to defeat us and destroy us. But all of the things that we face, I think the Lord's trying to use for His honor and glory.